Hey everyone, welcome back to Our Place. We are excited to continue our services series. We're going to be talking to Drew Decker today, who has been with Brightstone Transitions since 2020. He's going to be able to answer all of your guys' questions around residential programs and tell you more about their program, what you should look for, what service providers look for. And answer any questions that you may have. So Drew, thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here.
So let's talk about a residential program to start. A lot of people, that I've talked to, they don't even know that there are residential programs available for after their kids age out of high school. So tell us a little bit about a residential program and what it looks like.
Right. So residential programs are typically for young adults or kids, maybe in the late teen years who need a little bit more support once they've left high school. For a lot of kids, when they're in elementary school, middle school through high school, there are services and supports that are built into the school system. So they either have a special resources teacher, or they can get pulled out of class and have an IEP or something that allows them to have a more specialized, more structured education when they're in the school system. The challenge is when those kids will, like you said, they'll graduate from high school, they'll age out of those services, and they'll just sort of be expected to figure it out as young adults.
Yeah.
They'll just move on into, okay, well, you struggled through high school, you had all these supports in place, but now you've moved past high school, so okay, good luck, figure it out.
Yeah.
And for many young adults, those with disabilities or different challenges, that's really tough. It's tough for young adults who are neurotypical, who don't have any additional challenges that they're struggling with. So, to expect young adults with disabilities to be able to figure out how to find help and find services on their own, or even families to find those services on their own, it can be very challenging.
Yeah.
So these residential programs, some are more day programs. They tend to be more, you come to an outpatient center and you work with staff, you work with services that they have provided there. Residential programs like Brightstone, we have several locations, so houses in Gainesville, Georgia is where we're located, and our clients will actually come and live in one of our houses. So we have two men's houses and a women's house, and a collection of small houses and apartments. And our clients will actually live in these homes with staff members present who are there to help them figure out goals, figure out how to navigate the challenges that have come up in their day-to-day lives, and figure out how to move from living with support to living independently.
Yeah.
As young adults. So residential programs are really designed to kind of fill that gap between high school years, where you have lots of structure and support built into the young adult life, where you're out there figuring things out on your own.
Yeah. So I think you brought up a good point in that spiel about the residential facilities. So we talk a lot about timeline. I think it's the number one thing that comes up through every topic that we discuss, because you have like Medicaid waiver and it's get on the wait list at 14, 15 years old. Then you have guardianship, start 6 months before they turn 18. So when you're looking for a program or thinking about what is my child going to do after high school, is there a certain time that's good to start looking? Like, is there a wait list? Does the application process take a long time? When do families need to start looking into it?
Right. Typically around when you would be looking at colleges for a young adult in high school. So midway through junior year, early on in senior year, that's usually a really good time to start looking. Really what the conversations that need to be happening more so are, what kind of supports does our child, does our young adult need? And figuring out way ahead of time, where are they going to need to be supported? Are they going to need to be supported with employment coaching, or getting connected with social groups? Is it going to be more softer skills like emotional regulation or executive functioning? So figuring out what skills do you need to really work on to function as a young adult. So starting there and starting ahead of time, I'd say, junior year is probably going to be a good time to start, because that answering that question really will depend, on the answer to that question will depend on, what services you figure out your child needs. So if they're going to need more specialized services, if they're going to need a program that's, more structured, is a little bit more involved, that'll probably take a little bit longer.
Yeah.
A lot of these programs, however, will have rolling admission dates. If they're not academic focused, then typically their availability will just depend on space. So you won't be up against, like, well, there's an application deadline, or there's, a summer semester versus a fall semester. So a lot of these places will have rolling admission timelines. For programs that are more focused around academics, or maybe more focused around job coaching, those you usually, you don't need as much lead time, but you want to make sure you're getting those admission deadlines. But really the big conversation is just, what services is our child going to need? And then, going out and finding where those services are, and being able to be connected with, where those service providers are.
Yeah. So that brings up a good question too. So how would people go about finding services? I mean, is it,
Right.
it's, I think probably the number one ask that we get is, how in the world, like, I can't find services for my child. What do I do? Especially as they are aging out now. Hopefully we're going to be a resource that they can turn to, and they can be able to find services through us, and we'll be able to educate them on programs like Brightstone. But other than that, especially if somebody comes to Brightstone and goes, I don't know if this is a fit, now where do I go?
Right.
What do you say to those families?
Yeah. A good place to start is usually within your school system. Many of these school systems will have relationships with programs that they've sent prior families to. So that's usually a good place to start, having, a professional help you with those searches. And a lot of people in this field will have worked in different parts of the field. Maybe they've worked with different populations. So starting within the school system is usually a good place to start asking questions and figuring out what's going to be next for my child.
Yeah.
After that, once you can really kind of identify where your child is going to need help, again, let's maybe use the example of academic services. So there's a program called Landmark College, and they're a four-year university, but they specifically work with young adults who are on the autism spectrum. So they're designing themselves to be a college with additional support for young adults who may need a little more help, with executive functioning, with ADL, with daily scheduling, things like that. So searching, Googling, what the specific programs that deal with those services that you're looking for. So academic assistance or job coaching, Googling and just start calling some of these places, and then asking them specifically, can you point me in the direction of another program, or a service that maybe is similar to yours, if there's a wait list or something. So personally, I as the admissions director here at Brightstone, I have relationships with a lot of other admission directors in similar programs. So what I'll do is, if we get a call, and maybe we're not the right fit, or maybe they're on a timeline that we can't meet, what I'll do is I'll say, hey, let me give this person a call and point you in another direction. So kind of getting into that network and figuring out, okay, where can I go? And again, asking a professional, someone who's in the field, can you help me with your connections? Can you help me find a direction to go? Apart from that, I think there are more services out there than are listed on Google, or easy to find. But I found that there are a lot of good therapists, maybe just work by themselves, have a private practice. And not only are they a great resource for families and for clients, but they often have, again, those relationships. They know of programs, or they've sent previous clients to certain programs. So starting with looking for a good therapist, looking for a good psychiatrist or a psychologist. Emory University in Atlanta is another example I'll use. They have a great autism center, doing a lot of really great research on how the brain is affected by autism, and what services really help clients. So going to universities, going to those professional hospitals, and people who are studying these disabilities and these challenges, and, asking them, hey, can you point me in the right direction? Can you help me find the supports that I need? So
Yeah.
those are just a few of the places that I would say are a good starting point. But most of the people in this field, when we get a call, even if we can't place your child, we want to help you find, the right place, even if it means, sending you to another program or
Yeah.
someone in the field that we know, pointing people in the right direction.
Yeah. I think people are usually surprised to hear just the amount that accepts Medicaid waiver. That doesn't include any of the private pay organizations. There's over 23,000 across the United States.
Right.
And most people go, what? I mean, that's crazy. I couldn't even name two in, the state of Georgia or Alabama.
Right.
So, they're there. You just got to try to find them.
Right.
So when you work with a lot of families, especially being in charge of admissions. So what advice would you give to siblings or parents or loved ones that are looking for services, of what are good things to look for or good questions to ask when you're trying to find a program that's going to be a fit for your child?
Right. So I think the first question to ask is, what population do you work with and what age range do you work with? Because that's going to give you an idea of what they're going to be focusing on, if they're going to be able to provide the services that you're looking for. So a program that maybe focuses, if you ask them, and they say, oh, well, we typically work with, adults in their 30s or 40s. Well, then that's not going to be the right fit for your child, because that's probably going to be more of a long-term residential facility. So maybe some more long-term care for some more severe cases. So when you find a program that works with young adults, that works with your age range, your population, then asking them, so what is your approach? Are you a cognitive behavioral therapy program? Do you focus on wilderness therapy? Getting your kids out in the wilderness and exposing them to new challenges out in the wilderness. Are you a coaching or a mentoring model program? Asking what is your approach? What is your philosophy of working with these young adults? Some programs, again, they're going to be more focused on academics. So probably what they're going to be doing is they're going to be more focusing on, we're going to provide a really strict structure for your child, because that's what they're going to need to really focus on academics and really succeed in that. So we're going to take all those outside distractions, of getting themselves fed, of making sure that they've got, clean sheets, or, whatever it is. They're going to take all those distractions away with a really strict structure, so that your child can focus on academics, which is good. That's what they're there for. But Brightstone, for example, we are a coaching and mentoring model. So what that means is we're exposing our clients, introducing them to new challenges, to real world environments, just out in the community, and we're going along with them. Our staff are out there, when they go grocery shopping, or when they join a local kickball league. Our staff are accompanying them through that process. So the clients are the ones who are having those experiences and learning how to overcome them, with the support of our staff, where they're coaching them and mentoring them through those challenges. So asking a program, what is your approach, will really tell you a lot.
And you can do tours, right? I mean, you can come and see the facilities, meet the employees, maybe meet some of the other members. I mean, I'm sure you see that a lot.
Yes, so I do a lot of tours. As the admissions director. I actually have a tour scheduled for later today. I've got one tomorrow, then I've got one Wednesday, and then we've got a new client coming in on Thursday. So I'm always doing tours, but that's always a great opportunity to actually meet some of the staff and meet some of the clients at a program. So really asking, hey, could I speak with a current client at the program and ask them questions? Because the staff, they can give you their perspective.
Right.
And I can give you my perspective as the admissions director, but the best conversations are really the ones where the prospective client gets to speak to someone who's actually there and works through the program. And we find that really answers a lot of questions, and it brings a perspective that, we as staff can't have.
Yeah, definitely. So I think you talked about that you see your guys members out in the community and doing grocery shopping. And I know that from our interview with Colleen last week, you guys do a lot around employment and job coaching, which is fantastic.
Right.
What we have seen is some parents who, I mean, very valid emotions don't know if they can do it. I don't know if my child is ready for something like that. They're very nervous. The parents, they're providing a lot of their care at home. So tell us a little bit how you have seen your members thrive in the environment, like Brightstone, and doing things like the grocery shopping and the employment and everything, just to maybe not only educate parents, but make them feel a little bit more comfortable that maybe there is a possibility for their child doing a program like that one day.
Right. Absolutely. It is a very scary process. Giving your child over to a program is what it feels like, because, for 17, 18 years, however long it's been, you've been the primary caregiver. And so many parents that we see come to our program, right at the beginning, they have been fighting so hard for their child.
Yeah.
And they've had to fight tooth and nail for some of the most basic services sometimes, of just figuring out how to help their child. So it can be very challenging and very scary to let go and to allow this program to, go out and try and work with your child and help them succeed. I'll use the example of one young man who really, really struggled in high school at connecting with people, at building friends. He had maybe one friend, throughout his whole high school career. And when he, went off to college, he really struggled in the classroom. It was just a community college, so he wasn't like living in a dorm or anything, but he would, get to campus and just really struggled in class. It was just really overwhelmed, and was taking 5 classes, and the scheduling and everything was so challenging for him. So he ended up failing out all of his classes, but he had no idea because, he hadn't told his parents, because he was afraid of what they would say, and he didn't know how to get himself out of the situation. So he ended up just failing out of all of his classes, because he was just so overwhelmed. And then, so they tried to focus on, maybe let's just focus on getting him a job. But again, same thing, was just would get there and would be so overwhelmed, and wouldn't, the parents, try as hard as they could, loving him as much as they could. They couldn't give him the support that he needed. So he came to our program, and within 6 months, with just a little bit of structure, a little bit of support, he was working a job and had kept that job for about 5 months, which was the longest he had kept any job before. He was looking into school and was taking 1 class at a time, which was a much more manageable amount for him. And he was starting to get connected with local hiking groups in the area, because that's what he loved to do. So he really started to succeed and find himself.
Yeah.
And one of the challenges that he had was figuring out that he was capable of more. Just the trouble that he had in high school, the struggles with his first attempt at college, he had just convinced himself that he wasn't capable of more than that. And his parents, they just felt defeated, that we're not capable of helping him become more. And so there's just a feeling of defeat surrounding his experiences. And so when he finally started succeeding with our help, and was looking at moving into the second phase of our program, which is a more independent living phase, started making plans for college and graduating from the program, there was just this light that came on, like this is what he's capable of.
Yeah.
And this is what we are capable of as a family. I think that many times parents they'll blame themselves for not having the not having the training or the experience or the knowledge or really even the time to fully help their child learn to be successful. So just understanding that it does take time. It does take some people who are skilled, who are professional, and have a lot of knowledge and experience working with that population. But it is possible. And it can be a very scary process at the beginning, but at the end, it can be a very rewarding process too.
Yeah, that's right. It's just like sending your kid off to college.
Yes.
That's nerve-wracking too, and we know that this
Right.
can be nerve-wracking to parents as well. So I know that you guys, your guys program specifically, I think, works with more of the higher functioning
Hmm.
part of the disability community. But I also want to tell parents out there, there are programs all over the country for those children who are finishing high school at, I think it's
Hmm.
22, and maybe aren't going to be college bound, or
Right.
and employment might not be an option, but there are programs out there as well, available for those kids.
Yeah, definitely. Those are probably a little harder to find. But if there's if there's a need that that needs to be met with your child, chances are there's a program out there that that is working with them, or can kind of shift and change and say, okay, we don't typically work with this, we don't typically try and help with this, but we're willing to give it a shot. So for
Yeah.
example, about 2 years ago, right before the beginning of COVID, we had a client who came in who was probably autism level 2. So we typically work with autism level 1, which, as you said, is, for lack of a better word, higher functioning. And this client was a little on the lower end of the spectrum, and it wasn't our typical client. We didn't typically work with him, and he came into our program, and through no fault of his own, was just struggling with to keep up with the other clients, and was kind of struggling to really fit in with the typical day, the typical schedule that our clients had. So what we were able to do is we were able to kind of give him a little more space. So we were able to secure another residence, like a small apartment with just
Yeah.
him and a full-time staff, who was able to kind of help him at a slower pace and with a lot more patience, work through and accomplish a lot of the same things that these other clients were doing. And since then, we've grown that section of the program. So originally, it was just something that we did, to help him out, and now it's a full-time part of our program that we're actively doing intakes for. And it's grown to right now we have 3 clients and 4 full-time staff, whereas before it was just 1 client and 1 staff member. And again, it wasn't something that we set out to do. We just saw a need, and we said, all right, we're going to do what we can to help this kid. And we created a new branch of our program that really allows us to serve a whole nother section of the population. So really, there's a lot of programs out there with the same vision and the same drive to help that we have, and they will be able to flex and change and adjust to help focus on your child.
Yeah, definitely. When in doubt, ask. I mean, I think that's the
Right.
one thing we
Right.
hear in every interview, when in doubt, ask, when in doubt, ask. Cause this community, it's very close knit. And so a lot of people know a lot of people. And so usually if you talk to one person, you'll maybe even be able to get to another person. So,
Yes,
that
absolutely.
can be helpful too. So, we talk about the money side of things a lot. So
Hmm.
a lot
Right.
of people, there are organizations that accept Medicaid waiver and just accept Medicaid waiver.
Hmm.
There are organizations that offer Medicaid waiver and private pay options. There are organizations that just accept private pay.
Right.
So I think that your guys' program is unique because you are a private pay organization, and I think
Hmm.
everyone knows it's so hard to get waiver.
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit just like about how you guys are available to parents that either are on the wait list or Medicaid waiver is not an option for them.
Hmm.
And so tell us a little bit just about private pay organizations as a whole.
Right. So private pay organizations, while it can sometimes seem I guess limiting to some parents. The reason that a lot of private pay organizations choose to go that route is so that they have the flexibility to really invest and change and adapt to each client that comes in. So, if you're looking at a program and it seems super expensive and it's like, I don't understand, it's like, why can't you accept insurance? Well, very often the reason for that is oftentimes insurance companies will say, okay, here's a very set limit to what we're willing to pay for. You have 90 days within this program to, figure out what's going on, fix it and move on. And that's very often not a realistic timeline for a lot of the families that you're working with. So these programs that are private pay, it's designed like that so that there can be the flexibility and the freedom to, like the example that I used with the earlier client, to create a whole new branch of the program and a full-time staff member, and give him the services and the support that he needed to be able to thrive and to live independently. So it can be very challenging, and sometimes it does break my heart to see families out there who just really struggle to afford and find services. But recently I have seen a lot more government organizations starting to be able to provide more services to families who may not be able to pay a private pay facility, or there are great organizations out there who are actively doing fundraising and are establishing nonprofit sections of their program for families who have children who may need longer term care. So for example, there's a great program out in Utah that we worked with before, Scenic View, and their founders, they decided, we want to be able to help these families and to help these clients. So we're going to set up, they were able to set up this trust, and or maybe not trust isn't the right word, but this foundation, and they were able to fundraise and put in a lot of money so that families who weren't able to pay, that full cost, had an option. So what they'll do is they'll have their families fill out a financial aid form, and have to be pretty honest about your financial situation and what you're able to pay. But then if you're not able to pay the full cost, they'll meet you halfway or wherever it is that you need to go. And there are a lot of programs out there that are starting to do that because their founders wanted to be able to work with these families and want to be able to help everyone regardless of financial means. So a lot of programs out there are starting to establish those nonprofits and set up those parts of their program where they're able to help those clients who need longer term care, or even clients who maybe just need a year or two before moving on, but their families can't afford to pay for that. So those programs are out there. They're starting to become more common, which I think is an amazing thing.
Yeah, we have a page on our website that if members want to check out around grants and scholarship, like there are a lot of grants and scholarships out there for families who might not be able to afford services and are on the wait list for waiver or do not receive waiver. It definitely takes some digging, but we're trying to be a place that can consolidate. If you actually know of any organizations as a listener, please send them our way, because we would love to pass those out to families. We want to make services as accessible as possible. And I think a lot of people are on the same page there. And there definitely are options outside of Medicaid waiver, but I love educating families on their options. If you do have the financial means to afford private pay, there are quite a few organizations that can do that as well. So tell us a little bit about, I know we've talked a lot about Brightstone Transitions, but tell us about the organization itself. I think it's so unique that, you start in a group home and then you can move independently. So tell us a little bit about what that looks like.
Sure. So everyone will come in and they'll start off in our first phase, which we also call the mentor house phase, because that's where our staff are living in the house with the clients and are there 24/7 to help provide that support and help them build those skills that are going to lead them to live independently. For Brightstone, what it looks like for us is sort of an interview process. So as as our clients start to accomplish the goals that we help them set at the beginning of their time with us, then we start to add additional goals, or we start to maybe slowly take away some of those supports. So for example, let's say a client wants to get a job and wants to start off with maybe working 10 hours a week and learn how to budget and setting some small savings goals, like I want to save up $100 for a new video game. Okay, so let's accomplish that goal. And once they accomplish that, we can kind of take a step back and say, okay, look, you set this goal for yourself. Here was the process that you set for yourself, and now you accomplished it. And you learned all these things along the way. And then we start setting bigger goals. Okay, let's move your hours at work up to 15 hours a week,
Yeah.
and then maybe move to 20 hours a week. We've even had some clients who are like, I want to work 40 hours a week, and they maybe they struggle with it. Maybe it takes a little time, but they get there eventually, and start working those full-time jobs. So as they accomplish those goals, and as they start doing it with less and less support from staff, let's say maybe they can use public transportation to get themselves to work. Maybe they're getting themselves up on time. Maybe there's a conflict at work, and instead of having to bring in staff to help talk with the manager and resolve the situation with the coworker, they'll resolve the situation on their own, and they'll just tell us about it afterwards. So as they start finding those more successes and accomplishing things with more and more ease, then we start having the conversation of, are you ready to move on to the next phase? And our staff, again, are watching those successes that they're having. They're measuring that progress based on the goals that clients set for themselves. And we know, like, okay, this is about the time when it's time for you to start taking on this new challenge. So then they'll go over to the second phase of our program, and they'll start spending time over there. They'll get to know the staff there. They'll get to know the clients. Maybe they'll do an overnight visit, spend a couple of days over there, living the life of a client living in a small house or a small apartment.
Yeah.
With staff, they'll still there 24/7, a night staff making rounds, but no staff living in the house with them. So giving them that experience and then bringing them back to the first phase house, going over the experience and saying, okay, do you feel ready? And sometimes we need to say, okay, we know you're ready, and we need to push you a little bit, but we're excited for you, and we wouldn't be giving you this opportunity if we didn't feel that it was the right thing for you and that you are capable of it. And very often when they transition over, there will be a time where it seems like they're regressing. It seems like they're taking a step back. That's just an adjustment period.
Yeah.
And it's very natural for anyone, even young adults who are neurotypical, who don't have any challenges. It takes you a little while to find your bearings, to get your feet under you again. But we really see those clients then start to take off, and they thrive, and they grow, and they learn to love that independence, and start setting new goals and knocking them out, and start asking questions of where am I going to go once I'm done with the program? What am I going to do? Who am I going to live with?
Yeah.
And start asking those long-term questions, and it's really cool to see.
Yeah, that's great. This goes back a little bit to what we were talking about parents, but the program as a whole
Mm-hmm.
as well. How involved do parents get to be in their kids' lives as they go into a program like this? I mean, is
Mm-hmm.
it they can come see them every day if they want? Is it, tell us a little bit about that.
Right. For Brightstone, we do ask parents, give your child about a month or two to develop a good routine, to really get acclimated to the program and start to develop relationships with the staff and with the other clients.
Yeah.
Because that's where the real work is going to be done, is in the relationships that they have with the program, and the people within the program. The work that we do, the techniques that we use, or the theories that we draw, those are all well and good, and they have their place. But at the end of the day, what's really going to help your child succeed is that they know there is someone at the program who is on their side, who is cheering for them, who is helping them succeed, and is gonna be there to support them through any challenges that come up. So after that, we definitely want our parents to be involved in the program, because when we start to identify the goals that clients have, we also identify the support systems that they have. And family is one of the biggest support systems that anyone is ever going to have. So we want that support system to really be built into the program, and we want to help strengthen the support system as well. We want to be able to continue doing our work to help the parents learn more, to help them gain new skills and new experiences, so that when their child leaves the program, when they move on to the next phase, the parents are still going to be there. There's still going to be a support system that might change. Hopefully, that will change for the better. But we want our parents to be involved along the process, so that as their child is growing and learning and gaining new skills, so are the parents.
Yeah.
So for Brightstone, our staff, we have a case manager who's in charge of each house. And that case manager will have a call once a week with parents to update them on the progress,
Okay,
to
that's what
talk
I was
about the
going to ask.
challenges. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's not
So
just like, okay, 2 months with your child. No one's going to be talking to you. We'll give you guys an
right,
update in 2 months. So it's not
right.
like that.
See, that evokes some very scary feelings in a lot of parents.
Yeah.
It sounds like the beginning to like a Stephen King novel or
Yeah.
something like that. So no, we want parents to be very involved
Okay.
with their child. Really, what it comes down to is we're here to support the child and we're here to support the family as well. So a lot of families, again, through no fault of their own, just they didn't have the resources at the time or the ability to really provide that same structure that we're coming in to help provide.
Yeah.
And so, as our parents are, getting involved, we want them to see what we're doing. We want them to understand the techniques that we're using, the relationships that our staff have built with their clients, and the things that worked, the things that didn't, and the future plans. We want them to help set the goals. So communicating with parents is a very critical part of the work with the program. And sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes clients will have a difficult relationship with their parents. Whether it's it's a part of their disability and it's a challenge for them, or maybe there's just again, through no one's fault, it can be hard to find services as a parent for your child, and they can feel very defeated and you feel like I'm a failure as a parent. So what we want to do as an integral part of our program is help strengthen those family relationships. We want to build the parents up and say, you are not a failure. You just needed a little extra help, which is what we're here to do. And we want to say to the client, you're not a burden on your parents. You just needed a different approach and a little extra help. So we're strengthening that relationship. And so the case managers are often acting as parent coaches and parent advocates, advocates for the client to the family. Sometimes, as a case manager, you just need to be the calmest person in the room in the middle of a conversation and help everybody redirect back to the goal and help everyone see, we're all trying our best here and we're a good team and we're gonna accomplish the goals that we set for ourselves.
Yeah.
Communicating with parents and bringing parents into the process is a huge part of what we do. And I will say, that's going to be a really, that's a good question to ask.
Yeah.
When you're looking for a program, is how involved can I be? What kind of communication am I allowed to have with my child? When can I come visit them? Ask those questions. And some programs, like for example, a wilderness program, may not be able to, accommodate a lot of those because they're by necessity, they're out in the wilderness, they're going camping. It's not going to be possible for you to come, visit your child on the weekends. But you're still, they still, will have your child call home once or twice a week to tell you about what's going on and to make you involved in the process. So, asking those questions and figuring those things out ahead of time is a really good part of the beginning process.
Yeah. And as far as location goes, the parent does not have to live does the parent even have to live in the same state that the child, if the child's in your program?
Nope.
Yeah. So as a parent, you are not limited to staying in the state that you're in just because your child's there. If you want to move to Florida and retire at the beach and your child is in your guys' program, that's totally fine.
Yeah, absolutely. We have clients from the Northeast. We have clients from California. We have some clients from the state of Georgia, but most of our clients are from out of state. And their parents will come, once every other month to visit, or maybe they'll go home and visit for their birthday or Thanksgiving. But yeah, there's more resources out there than are just in your neighborhood. You can go nationwide to look for resources and to look for good programs. Yeah.
Well, we had a few questions submitted. Some of them I think are going to be asked later on in the series,
Sure.
or in the services series. But as far as activities, I think that there's been some question about like during the day doing activities such as games, shopping, those kind of things. This particular woman, it looks like, hired a peer coach. Now that is an option, I think, to hire peer coaches, not necessarily through residential programs. It probably depends on if they have a day program, which we will be speaking to a woman who has day program in the next 2 weeks. So we'll talk to her about that.
Great.
But a little bit about like kind of activities that you guys do as part of your program during the day. I know that we talked about employment and grocery shopping and all that kind of stuff, but what other activities could parents expect their kids to be able to participate in?
Right. So sometimes, clients who come into a residential program may not be ready for a job. Maybe they need a little experience doing some volunteer work, whether it's at a food bank or at the local humane society, or we even have a relationship with a working farm here in the area. And
That's
we'll
awesome.
have some clients who will just go and help with different projects that are going on, or helping take care of the animals, and kind of learning about what that looks like. We've had clients who have worked with Habitat for Humanity at their Restore program. I'm sure Colleen probably talked about this a little bit because she's helped create a lot of these programs. But we've even had more clients work with different volunteer organizations and programs within the city of Gainesville, to kind of help give back to our community, help make Gainesville a better place than when we first got here, and get our clients out in the community and start helping them see the value of giving back and of being charitable. So some of our clients will need to focus on that volunteer work when they first come in. Some of our clients will really need to just focus on those social skills. Maybe they've really struggled to build relationships. Maybe they really don't know how to communicate their needs in an appropriate way. So we need to focus on that with them. So that would probably look like helping them learn to set a schedule, a consistent wake up time, consistent medication and hygiene routine. What are your interests? Do you enjoy sports, or are you more artistic? Do you really enjoy, we've got a group of young men who play Dungeons and Dragons together once a week. Magic the Gathering is super popular in our program as well. So, if client's not quite ready for employment, we'll probably start off with some volunteer work once or twice a week to help them get used to showing up somewhere where they're expected to come and they're expected to work. But again, it's low pressure. There's not, a financial aspect involved in it. Apart from that, helping build in the rest of their schedule with their interests, or group activities like going for hikes. We're about an hour away from Atlanta, so we'll go to the World of Coke Museum or the Georgia Aquarium, or go see a Braves game. Getting them out in the community and having fun experiences where they're around their housemates, they're around their peers in the program, and through those conversations and through those experiences, they're learning and they're growing and they're strengthening those social skills that they needed to focus on. And then after doing that for a while, then maybe we can look into, okay, let's get a job, work 10 hours a week, add in that next level of challenge. So there's different levels of activity for everyone. It really just depends on what the need is.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Drew, thank you so much. I know that this is going to be so helpful to families who are looking for services. I think you really provided some great tips on things to ask, things to look for, and just know that the parent can be a part of this process even once their child is in a program. So if you guys are interested in learning any more about Brightstone, you can check out their website. We'll put their information on our place as well, so you can reach out to them with any questions. And thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Of course, this is a great service that you guys are providing. Happy to help in any way that we can.
Yeah. So watch next week as we continue our services series. Submit any questions or feedback on our website, and we will see you next time.